Mr. President.
Senator from Connecticut.
Mr. President, I rise in very strong support of this melded bill drafted and put together by our distinguished leader, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. And before I begin with some brief remarks, Mr. President, let me extend my heartfelt thanks to our Majority Leader for his tireless work, to thank Max Baucus of Montana for his tireless work, the members of the committees that have worked over the past many, many months to bring us to this moment. Others this evening have spoken with great eloquence, in my view, about the provisions of this bill, what we hope to achieve for our fellow citizens with the adoption of this legislation. I want to commend the Senate Help Committee, which did such heroic work during the writing of our portion of the bill. My colleagues, Tom Harkin of Iowa, Barbara Mikulski of Maryland, Jeff Bingham of New Mexico, Patty Murray of the state of Washington, and so many others. I want to thank my Republican colleagues of that committee as well. And while we didn't end up with a bipartisan vote at the end of that very long process, Mr. President, we did end up adopting more than 150 amendments offered by my Republican colleagues to that bill, which I think strengthened the legislation. It made it a better piece of legislation that we have as a part of us this evening. I also want to pause for a moment, if I can, Mr. President, to recognize a colleague who is here tonight only in spirit, Ted Kennedy. So much has been said and written about his lifelong quest to ensure that every American has decent health care. Tonight, we and in the days to come will pay him the highest compliment as our colleague by fulfilling that quest of achieving the goal that all Americans aspire for, and that is a national health care plan that serves every one of our citizens. I'd like to speak briefly, if I could, to the American people who are at home this evening, I suspect, and just tuning in to this debate, this important vote will occur momentarily. Why does this issue and this debate matter? Why are we here on a Saturday evening? But then again, for that matter, why are you watching C-SPAN on a Saturday evening, I might add? Well, for one thing, Mr. President, health care represents 1/6 of our economy and affects 100%, as we all know, the population of this country. And it is true that skyrocketing health care costs are the single biggest threat to the financial future of our fellow citizens. But the reason tonight's vote is so historic, beyond those last 2 points, is that never, ever before, Mr. President, has this body elected to serve the American people confronted directly this simple truth. Nothing, absolutely nothing, matters more to you and to your family than the ability to get the health care you need when you need it from the doctor you choose at a price you can afford. Health care is our most basic need. Health care is the most basic commitment that we should be willing to make to each other. No matter what your family finances, no matter what your hopes and dreams are, no matter who you are or where you live or what your job is, in America, in our 21st century America, Mr. President, you should be able to get the care that you need. But for too many American families, perhaps your family, as you watch this tonight from your homes, health care has become your most basic fear. If you don't have health insurance, you go to bed every single night knowing that if you wake up sick, your child does, you might not be able to see that doctor or afford one, if you could even find one. Even if you have health insurance, you're paying more and more in premiums and getting less and less coverage for your money. Millions of you are seeing your premiums skyrocket, and yet you lie awake at night. Millions do, Mr. President, wondering, what if I lose my job? What if I get sick and find out my policy doesn't cover the costs and the care I need? Or even worse, your insurance company cancels your policy altogether. What if you run out of benefits and have to pay out of your pocket? I wish I could say that these fears are irrational fears, but they're not, Mr. President. There's nothing irrational about those fears. Insurance doesn't allow you to be sure of anything these days. Our system, as we all know, all 100 of us here, know that our system is broken. People are losing their homes because they get sick. People are dying because they can't afford a cure. This is just not acceptable in our America, Mr. President. And that's why we're here on a Saturday night. And if you watch the news over the past few months, you probably notice that there's a wide range of opinions on how we should fix things. And that is as it should be, Mr. President. We need all as we can get. And hopefully this debate will produce that. But if you've also watched the debate in the Senate over the last few days, you've probably noticed something else as well. I don't believe a single person in this body has stood up at any point and said that we're okay doing nothing at all. Therefore, in the weeks ahead, we'll have a full and open-throated debate, Mr. President, to every provision of this bill. But tonight's vote is nothing more than a choice between doing something or doing nothing. And I would urge my colleagues this evening to join us, hopefully unanimously, to say we should do something. We should do something about this most basic right that all Americans deserve. And I yield the floor.